Mercedes just revealed major future changes. We're gonna be going through that and 5 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Mercedes content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel hitting that red button down below. So the first story is Toto Wolff vows Mercedes will come back in more potent form with future changes for F1 in 2023. Toto Wolff believes Mercedes will be back in a more potent form in F1 2023 as the team looks to return to fighting for world titles. Mercedes endured a miserable 2022 campaign by their high standards, winning just once and slipping to third in the constructors' standings behind rivals Red Bull and Ferrari. The season brought an end to the German manufacturer's remarkable run of 8 consecutive Constructors' World Championships, and also saw star driver Lewis Hamilton fail to win a Grand Prix or take a pole position for the first time in his F1 career. But Wolff is hopeful Mercedes will be back in the hunt for wins and world titles in 2023 after a season of Red Bull domination. "I'm always a half-empty glass guy, and I see the risks," Wolff told the Beyond the Grid podcast. As a matter of fact, if you're trying to be logical, Red Bull was very dominant throughout the season. It's going to be very difficult to have a development slope that is steeper than theirs, and also Ferrari, but I believe in the organization. Fundamentally, it's not about a lack of downforce, but a problem in making that downforce work on the car. With our learnings, the values in the team, the empowerment, and the no-blame culture, I think we will be back in a more potent form next year, hopefully winning races on merit and fighting for the championship. But is it a given? Certainly not. Wolff added, at the end, it comes back to the sentence, "The days we lose are the days our competitors will regret, because we learn the most." Hopefully the future will be proof of that. Wolff stressed Mercedes are confident they have resolved the porpoising and bouncing issues that plagued their W13, and confirmed that parts of the car will change in 2023. "We believe that we solved the underlying problem of the bouncing, but not all of that could have been done on the 2022 car," he explained. "So we believe it is going to be easier next year. We are changing some of the architecture and the layout of the car that should point us in the right direction." But as it is with these new regulations, sometimes you uncover one problem, and then you realize there is a new one underneath. We have to be humble and not feel a sense of entitlement that we are going to get back into this championship and win straight from the get-go. "I'm really looking forward to it." So the second story is Hamilton says he dreams to retire a champion, but won't leave F1 with Mercedes soon, pouring cold water on growing debates on how long Hamilton would stretch his Formula One career. The 37-year-old 7-time F1 champion said in a recent interview that he dreams of a dream to retire as a champion. Nevertheless, he has no plans to retire anytime soon. Apart from that, addressing his friendly relationship with the Mercedes boss Toto Wolff, Hamilton also added that he will not be leaving Mercedes, too. In the matter of the fact, latest remarks from Hamilton came forth nearly a couple of weeks after Wolff had told in an interview that Hamilton would eventually wrap up his career after winning a record 8 championship title, while Ferrari's Leclerc alongside Red Bull boss Horner had told in recent interviews that Mercedes F1 team might unleash a much better car this year compared to 2022, which would highly likely to challenge the Red Bull and Ferrari when it comes to drivers' championship title race. Meanwhile, as optimism is running higher on a plausible Mercedes victory in 2023 F1 season, many analysts are saying that the Verstappen era would likely to wind up sooner than anticipated, with other F1 teams nearing the Red Bull's engineers, who had developed a scintillating racing demon for Verstappen in 2022. Nevertheless, speaking in an interview with a press agency, adding that he dreams to retire as a champion, the 37-year-old said, "Motorsport isn't the most important thing for me," he told Sport Build. "When I was a kid, maybe it was. Probably also when I got into Formula One. Ever since I was in my 30 seconds, I've realized that it's all about making memories. With friends, with family. It's about key memories with the people who mean the most to you. That's what I focus on and plan things to create those moments. Because that's what you take with you in the long run. Sometimes you wake up and have this feeling, I don't want to do this anymore. And sometimes you wake up and think, I can still do other things my whole life. There is definitely more I want to achieve. It won't be a terribly long time now, but I'll definitely be staying. I think retiring as a world champion is a dream that every athlete has, and so do I." Mercedes have reportedly been mulling an extension of Hamilton's contract, which will conclude by end 2023. So the third story is Mick Schumacher is entrusted with helping 2023 development, says Mercedes. Mercedes expect Mick Schumacher to perform well in his role as reserve driver in 2023 as the team looks to make significant gains over the winter break. Mick Schumacher has been praised at length by Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff, who expressed his interest in signing the 23-year-old as a reserve driver in the final weeks of the 2022 campaign. The departures of Stoffel Vandoorne and Nick de Vries left the German squad with a vacancy in the reserve driver role, which Schumacher has taken the opportunity to occupy. Having spent 2 years in F1 with Haas, the youngster has accumulated valuable experience to enhance his performance and overall utility in this new role. Mercedes will be eager to put the difficulties of the W13 firmly in the past and utilize the talents across their driver roster to reassert themselves as championship contenders. Toto Wolff has spoken about Schumacher's strengths and how they will assist him in his role as reserve driver. Nick is a talented young driver, and we're delighted to have him join the team. He is a hard worker, has a calm and methodical approach, and is still hungry to learn and improve as a driver. These are all important qualities, and we're excited for him to help us develop the W14. We also know that with 2 years of experience racing in Formula One under his belt, we will be ready to step into the car at short notice to replace either Lewis or George, should that need arise. Mercedes is expected to commit to its aggressive sidepod design from the 2022 campaign, so next year will prove a test of this radical design's true potential. The porpoising issue seems to have largely been addressed, which provides hope for the German squad and their chances of having a smoother development path. Whilst it will be difficult to gauge Schumacher's effectiveness from the outside, the former Ferrari Academy driver has an opportunity to impress Mercedes next season. So the fourth story is porpoising broke Mercedes power units in the 2022 season. Mercedes engine boss reveals that it wasn't only drivers Lewis Hamilton and George Russell that took a pounding when porpoising was at its worst. Though it was evident from preseason testing that Mercedes, like several other teams, was being compromised by the car's bouncing, it was only in Azerbaijan that we came to realize the full effect of the phenomenon. On-board coverage had revealed the pounding the drivers were taking, Russell admitting that it had caused his vision to blur, but as Hamilton climbed from his car in obvious pain, the FIA decided it was time to act. However, many failed to realize the damage the bouncing was causing to other elements of the car, most noticeably the power unit. At the beginning of the season, the two big things that we had was firstly the power was going to get frozen, and it was going to be a hardware freeze, says Hywell Thomas, managing director of the Mercedes high-performance powertrains, in a new video from Mercedes. And that's what we were going to be using for the next 3 years. So we had a really big development program over the whole of last year and through that winter, and just trying to make sure we landed that it was a real big effort. A really big effort. When we came back from Bahrain, we said, how are we going to do this? How are we going to put the performance on the car from our side? It was, look, we're going to have to do small gains. At the same time, don't compromise the reliability. By that period of the season, it was becoming clear that the engines were taking a hell of a pounding. The bottom of the engines, when you came up to Brixworth last week and you saw some of the parts that were off the race engines, it's quite a surprise to see exactly how hard they were being hit by the ground. When you see Lewis and George looking a bit uncomfortable getting out of the cars, the PUs were doing much of the same, adds Thomas. We came out at the beginning of the season with some wobbles on the power unit, adds Wolff. We didn't like certain aspects of the deployment or the drivability of the power unit. And whilst in the frozen environment, you and your team, you were able to really add on performance and cope with the difficult environment of a bouncing car that was breaking your engine. Still, we were super reliable and the engine was performing very well towards the middle of the season and the end. So the fifth story is Mercedes is still the best team according to Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton never ceases to attract attention, neither when he is on the track nor off it, neither in the middle of the Formula One season nor in off-season. The 7-time F1 champion has posted a video on social media in which he can be seen running through the streets of Buenos Aires. Wearing sunglasses and dressed in white cap and red shirt, Hamilton posted a message in which he made it clear that it is the first time he visits the country. His visit comes just more than a week after Argentina won the 2022 World Cup. First time in Argentina, such a beautiful place, Hamilton said. Lewis Hamilton decided to take some time off after an extremely complicated season. His Mercedes W13 was a car with which he could not compete against Red Bull and Ferrari. He did not win a single race, nor was he able to shine at any moment. This is something unusual for a driver who has won as many titles as legendary Michael Schumacher and has recorded 103 victories as well as 103 pole positions so far in his career. Lewis is on a roll. The good thing for Hamilton is that Mercedes progressed to the point where they managed to outperform Ferrari as George Russell was able to win in Brazil. It is the most important thing for us to have this result, Hamilton noted. This is a massive boost to the whole team's morale. Going into the winter, the team knows that we're on the right track, and we are still the best team. We will get back to having this more consistent, I think, next year, and I'm excited for that battle. For a long period of time, we couldn't really, truly understand what the problem was or how to fix it. And it was difficult because we kept trying and trying and trying, and every time something new came, we still had the problems we had. So this is really huge. We know where our North Star is. We know where we need to put all our efforts into this winter. In an interview with GQ, Sargent talks more about his first memories of F1. The American driver was inspired by the title fight between Hamilton and Felipe Massa in 2008. Sargent was 7 years old at the time. Why did Sargent choose F1? Because it's simply the pinnacle of motorsport. It's where competitiveness is at its highest and where the best drivers in the world are. Any kid's dream is to reach the top of whatever they're doing, so I'd say that's what attracted me to it. I started watching Formula One back when Lewis and Felipe Massa were battling for the championship in 2008. I'd wake up early to watch the races. Then I moved to Europe, so the races were finally on at a more normal time for me, says the new Williams acquisition. Sargent will have to compete against Alexander Albon next year. With Mercedes leaving Formula E and F1 doors appearing to be closing, De Vries had already focused on other classes for 2023 until suddenly there came that opportunity at Williams. The Dutchman, impressed, spoke to compatriot Max Verstappen and phoned Helmut Marko. The Austrian gasped and brought in De Vries for 2023. So Mercedes rival De Vries is going to be snapped up, but Wolff does not mind. Should De Vries ever get the chance at Red Bull, the Mercedes team boss can only be delighted. I thought about it. I hope that he stays there, and I hope that he's successful in AlphaTauri. I hope he will be so good to make it into a Red Bull seat one day, because he deserves that. And then we take it like sportsmen, and we fight it out, Wolff said.